Nokia C3 with Bluetooth headset included. No worries, gift happy.
Hi, I'm Patrick Hunt, and I'm the federal conservative candidate for Victoria. Please join me, and together we'll make Victoria work.
CHEK News, sports with Jeff K, weeknights at 5 and 10.
Tonight on Nightline, size matters. Obese hospital patients require lots of extras. Tonight we go to a hospital that takes extraordinary measures to cater to supersized patients. But at what cost to the healthcare system? Plus, just Cher. For 5 decades she's been a star, an actress, and an icon. Tonight, Cher talks about her new film. Her life's many roles, and coming to terms with her daughter's decision to become a man. And tragic end, after a 13-year-old girl was found tied up in an Ohio basement last week, authorities have been searching for the rest of her family. Today, the grim discovery. We have the latest.
From the global resources of ABC News, with Terry Moran, Cynthia McFadden, and Bill Weir in New York City. This is Nightline, November 18th, 2010.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia McFadden. We begin tonight with America's obesity epidemic. A study released last month by the nonprofit National Bureau of Economic Research found that obesity-related medical expense costs the United States $168 billion a year, nearly 17% of total medical costs. Where does the money go? Well, tonight we visit an Alabama hospital specially outfitted to accommodate extremely overweight patients. John Donovan has our report.
In one of the largest hospital centers in the nation, size matters, just not in the way anybody really wants it to. The size of obese patients who, by their sheer weight and dimension when they get here, challenge the system. From the teams that handle emergency cases,
it takes more of our people to help move the patients if they're not able to move themselves.
I mean, just to do basically any kind of invasive procedure will need help.
to doctors who need to get breathing tubes into, in this case, an obese trauma victim.
It makes it very difficult for us to try to find it, more difficult for us to try to find the area.
Literally to find it because there's so much fat in the way.
That's right.
Or even to close his wound.
If he were a thinner person and the same thing happened, he probably would have been able to do it all in one operation. But because he's a larger person, it made us want to operate on more than one time.
And even in the relative calm of the maternity floor, to OBGYNs who have to adapt for moms of a certain size.
We also have special instruments in planning when these patients require a cesarean section, even deciding where to make that incision on the abdomen is more problematic.
We are at the UAB Hospital, that's University of Alabama at Birmingham, certainly among the nation's most modern medical complexes, but it's dealing with a weight problem. It's the patients, also a good number of the hospital staff itself. It is, to be blunt, the neighborhood that UAB is in.
How often do these bigger patients come in?
Regularly.
Hospital CEO Michael Waldron calls it the obesity belt, and Alabama is part of it.
Being in the middle of the obesity belt for the country and living through this epidemic, we have a need to provide more services. So just because we have more obese patients, more patients like Diane Warren, who gave birth to Ariana Grace a few days ago. Well, actually, it wasn't a few days ago. At this point, it had been 6 days. That's pretty long to stay compared to most women. Is that again related to your size?
Yes, so they had to take extra precautions with me and in everything they did.
Deborah Kimberlin was Diane's doctor for the delivery.
We were concerned she was developing preeclampsia,
which is
a common complication of pregnancy where the blood pressure becomes elevated, and it's a condition that if left untreated and unchecked can cause liver dysfunction, kidney dysfunction, seizures, even maternal death.
What does that have to do with her weight?
Obese women are at increased risk for development of preeclampsia. We know that. In addition, Diane also has a history of underlying chronic hypertension or high blood pressure that preceded the pregnancy.
Related to her weight, probably.
Most likely related to her weight, yes.
I mean, you want to hear your pregnancy's going to be like everybody else's, and you're going to have a healthy baby.
What were you told that could happen?
I could develop preeclampsia, which I did. She could be stillborn. I might not make it through the C-section if I had to have a C-section. She might not make it.
These are all consequences of your size.
Right, and the high blood pressure. I have a thyroid problem. It's everything all mixed together. But yeah, being the size that I am, everything contributed to it.
How much of the warnings actually came true?
Preeclampsia, I did have.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing. I mean, we're here.
So it's longer stays, but it's also a bigger team needed to assist with the delivery.
Particularly when patients are in labor and they have an epidural, for instance, they can't assist in movement in the same way. So it takes an increased number of personnel to move
4 or
her.
5 people?
We had 4 surgeons in Diane's surgery. We had 3 anesthesiologists, 2 scrub techs, pediatric team. It took about 6 to 8 people to get her moved.
But let's be clear, at UAB, that honest description of the facts is not intended as a criticism of the patients. If anything, UAB's gone out of its way to make the obese feel comfortable here, investing in oversized beds, designing rooms with plus-size doorways, and this wheelchair, extra large, which may not be so obvious until I roll up a standard-sized chair for comparison.
The equipment in those rooms, the beds, for instance, compared to the beds we own, we have to rent beds for that patient population. What does that cost you? It's about 50% more per bed.
But they're the sort of adaptations that make Misty Treadgill and her husband Joe, who are expecting in 14 weeks, feel much more comfortable coming here for her prenatal care than where she used to go.
Doing okay today? Yes. The facility that I had chose to use originally, they were really devastating to me.
In what way? They didn't have high prospects for her because of her weight.
To get pregnant or to have a healthy pregnancy?
To have a healthy pregnancy,
to carry a baby at all or anything.
Well, it sounds as though her previous clinic was only telling her the truth because obesity does raise risks in pregnancy, but UAB doesn't deal in stigma or shame, even while requiring extra sonograms. Incidentally, a chance for parents to hear their baby's heartbeat, which isn't always possible with a normal stethoscope, when layers of fat muffle the sound. It's not that patients here are never told they should lose weight. In fact, weight modification is Dr. Jamie Ard's specialty.
How's the exercise been going at home?
Slowly.
But like many here, he is careful not to make it about shame.
The goal is to lose the weight. A lot of people, unfortunately, avoid medical care because of their weight. They've had a bad encounter with a physician or healthcare provider who didn't understand some of the challenges that they were going through. And so, rather than deal with that embarrassment, they just skip the colonoscopy or they skip the screening test that would have prevented some poor outcome down the road.
And so they do come, and they do get care, in a place where, yes, size matters, but just not in quite the same way in here as it does on the outside. I'm John Donvan for Nightline in Birmingham, Alabama.
Acknowledging and trying to deal with a complex problem. When we come back from I Got You Babe to If I Could Turn Back Time, Cher has been a box office star for 5 decades. Tonight, our exclusive interview.
ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Progressive.
Well, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser Bath Scrubber, quick question, what does she see in him?
Oh, well, guys, his scrubbing surface is 30% larger, so.
Okay.
Oh, and one more thing. He cleans 3 times more soap scum per swipe than you.
Gosh, looking at this right in our faces, huh? Mr. Clean doesn't just clean, he brings out the shine, too.
You know what? Nobody likes to show off.
Nobody but her.
Yeah.
Remove 3 times more soap scum per swipe with the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser Bath Scrubber.
Your winning moment awaits
awaits at Kia Winterfest, where we're driving change and making everyone a winner. Win $500 to $10,000, plus get 0% financing for up to 84 months, and don't pay till spring. Now, here's another magical medical moment with the Wisecracks.
You know, new research conducted in mice suggests that the loss of smell may be the first sign that a person's starting to develop Alzheimer's disease. And that's because scientists have discovered that the amyloid plaques, which are responsible for the cognitive decline of dementia, first start to deposit in the part of the mouse brain that is responsible for the sense of smell.
This is a revealing study because it means that we now have an inexpensive alternative to brain scans in order to determine if early Alzheimer's is setting in, and that's a smell-related test. So if you stood beside Dr. Seeley and you didn't smell anything, I would be concerned. But if you stood beside him and you smelled a combination of high karate, mesclarol, garlic, and other things we won't mention, then you're in good shape.
Now there you have another magical medical moment from the Wisecracks.
Brought to you by MediChair. Improve the quality of your life. Quadrant Caledonia and in the Sydney Centre.
Now, here's another magical medical moment with the Wisecracks.
You know, latest news reveals that a simple urine test may give the answer to whether or not a child has obstructive sleep apnea. Now, I know a lot of kids know, including myself, but 25% of those may have underlying serious sleep apnea. And the answer may lie in the fact that a child just has to simply pee in a cup to find out.
Finding biomarkers in a child's urine that indicates obstructive sleep apnea is significant because it means now that a test can be developed using color markers. And they would use this from a physician's point of view or a parent's point of view could use it. I'm assuming they're using color other than yellow to determine if your child has obstructive sleep apnea. Now, should your child snore and bedwet at the same time, you may want to redial that stork and order a new model.
That's right. There's another magical medical minute from the Wisecracks.
Brought to you by CHEK Television, your island's own.
Well, we turn now to entertainment. Before there was Gaga, before there was Madonna, there was Cher. Much like the Statue of Liberty and the pyramids, Cher endures. She's had a hit record in every one of the past 5 decades and has sold 100 million albums along the way. Now at age 64, she's starring in a new film and agreed to sit down and talk about any and everything, including her daughter's painful decision to become a man. Show a little more. This is Cher, 64 years in the making. The film Burlesque, her first starring role in a decade.
It was hard work. It was the hardest work I ever did on a film. 16-hour days.
Her co-star is Christina Aguilera in her film debut. How talented is she, do you think?
I think she's very talented. I think she has a really good shot. But, you know, she was not very trusting of me. And I said to her, I will not do any both actress stuff. If you know what you're doing, you can screw around with someone. And I said, I'm here to support you, and I always will. So let's just start there.
If you fall off the stage, leg extended, boobs up. Cher plays Tess, the golden-hearted proprietor of a down-on-his-luck club. The role is pure Cher.
Tell me what you're looking for. I'm looking for someone who can do the routine. You gotta make me believe that you belong up there. You want to show me something? Show me that.
She's tough on the outside and sort of...
Well, she's tough all the way through, but she's, you know, no one's tough all the time.
So how much like you is she?
I think she's quite a lot.
No one could have survived as long and as loudly as Cher without being tough. And the two have something else in common.
Yes, ma'am. And don't ever call me ma'am again.
Ma'am. What am I, my mother?
Does anybody in real life call you ma'am?
No. People call me ma'am. I just go, what? No, I'm Cher. I'm not Miss Cher. I'm not ma'am. I'm just Cher.
Just Cher seems to be plenty good enough, even when she's acting with people less than half her age.
The girls were mesmerized with the fact that I was my age. could not believe it, could not compute it. Like when you're 29 and your co-star is 64.
You're keeping up with them.
I just said to my body, do this. This is what I need you to do.
And it did, though she's no fan of getting older.
I would love to be like those women who are just so happy with their age and, you know, just feeling that they've never been better and all that. But I just don't believe it. You know, I just, for me, it just, older age gets in my way.
She says her pal Meryl Streep, who she co-starred with in Soapwood 27 years ago, is an exception.